So the California attack on that power substation was in 2013, still unsolved. This year, we get neo-Nazis trying to set off a race war, planning what appears to have been a copycat attack, copying what happened in California. Also, to the extent that they're also planning on using high-powered rifles to shoot up electrical substations and try to knock out the power. The guilty pleas to the plot that was uncovered by federal prosecutors, those guilty pleas were earlier this year in federal court in Ohio. And now this weekend, here we are again, Moore County, North Carolina.
Shortly after 7 p.m., power outages began here in the Carthage area. Shortly thereafter, the outages would spread to the greater majority of central and southern Moore County. Upon the arrival of the power crews and our deputies, extensive damage was found at their substations. Evidence at the scene indicated that showed that the firearm had been used to disable the equipment.
Power out for what they call 45,000 customers. Customers in this case means 45,000 homes and businesses. Altogether, we're talking about over 100,000 people. Well, it was initially 45,000 customers, 45,000 homes and businesses. It's now down to 33,000 homes and businesses, but that's still tens of thousands of Americans tonight with zero power, zero. And this isn't like lines down in a storm that you go out and rewire the lines and put them back up. This is two electrical substations shot up with firearms, like in California in 2013, and like the neo-Nazis just pled guilty to planning in Ohio earlier this year. And we have nobody in custody, nobody claiming responsibility, no word on any potential motive, apparently no suspects. In Moore County, North Carolina this weekend, it was two different electrical substations, reportedly about 10 miles apart. The two of them reportedly shot at and disabled by gunfire within about 45 minutes of each other on Saturday night. As for the motive, we literally have no idea. And there has been a lot of speculation, both nationally and locally, since we learned that this happened, since we learned that this was a deliberately inflicted attack. But honestly, bottom line, we really do not know. At the first press conference yesterday, where the sheriff and local officials took the first questions about what had happened, they were immediately asked, and then asked repeatedly, whether this attack on the electrical infrastructure in North Carolina might be related to threats and intimidation that have been directed at local LGBTQ groups in Moore County recently, and in particular, at a drag show at a downtown venue in the town of Southern Pines, a show that started just minutes before the power stations were shot up and the lights went out. There were far-right, anti-gay, anti-trans protesters trying to shut down that Moore County event on Saturday, just hours before the power stations were shot up. This followed another similar protest by masked far-right paramilitary groups, including the Proud Boys, at an LGBTQ event last month in nearby Sanford, North Carolina, which is only about a half an hour away from Moore County. Vice News points out today that this was a whole weekend of menacing anti-gay, anti-trans protests in multiple places around the country, including Columbus, Ohio, where honestly it looked like a gun show on the street outside one gay and trans-friendly event with armed Proud Boys flashing white power signs and screaming at people, and a white supremacist group called Patriot Front showing up in formation, White Lives Matter guys doing Hitler salutes, random guys with no apparent affiliation just turning up in full camouflage military-style outfits with assault rifles. That was Columbus, Ohio this weekend. Lakeland, Florida had neo-Nazis this weekend outside a queer event, flying a big swastika flag. Neo-Nazi Holocaust deniers showed up to another queer event in New York City this weekend as well. So when Moore County, North Carolina was host this Saturday to another one of these far-right anti-gay, anti-trans protests, and then just as a local drag show that they were protesting started up, someone shot up the power stations and cut power to the whole county. Yes, understandably, people locally immediately started asking the sheriff if that was the reason why, if there was a connection. Now, the sheriff has said repeatedly that he has no idea if the attack on the power stations is linked to those anti-gay, anti-trans protests. There really is no indication either way. The sheriff says he has no idea about a motive of any kind, no suspects, nobody claiming responsibility, no one in custody.